Welcome to today's episode of the Support Insights podcast. I am your host, Bryony Mulcairn, Community Manager at Sentisum. Today I have two guests joining me. I have Jeffery King and Travis Brace from Grindr. We're going to be talking about how they've created a tagging taxonomy that helps to influence the product roadmap. We'll also be talking about how Grindr have created a brilliant feedback culture where customer support can share their achievements and insights with wider departments to help focus those strategies around what the customers need. Hello, Jeffery and Travis. Welcome. Thank you both so much for joining me. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So do you mind both starting just by introducing yourselves and telling me and the viewers a little bit about you and your role?
Yes. So my name is Jeffrey, and I've been with Grindr. It'll be 2 years next month. And my title is Community Advocate. So a lot of my role involves looking at various feedback channels and making sure that the business is aware of any trends, the things that people really love and are engaging with. Maybe our community is interacting with something or thinking about something in a way that's different to how we expected. And so then making sure that that gets to product and the company as a whole so that we can figure out what we need to do to keep people happy.
I love that. One thing that I'll add to Jeffrey's many lists of responsibilities and accomplishments is he's also our team's motivational speaker. He's like the heart of we're always bragging on him about that, but truly, none of us could be here without him. My name is Travis. I lead our customer support department. So mostly I set strategy for our team, thinking about OKRs, our goals, the projects that we're going to be working on every given quarter. I also manage our relationship to our BPO, Partner Hero. Shout out Partner Hero. They're wonderful partners. We love working with them, but I have a lot of touch points with them over the course of the week just to make sure that the Grindr Partner Hero relationship is kind of optimized and staying afloat. Yeah, I've been at Grindr since about 2020 and I love it.
I love the shout out to Partner Hero. I had Craig Stoss from there on here before.
Love Craig. He's the best.
Thanks for the little intro. So you've both been there for a couple of years, so you're kind of on a similar timeline by the sounds of things, which is super nice. Jeffrey, you've told me a little bit about the fantastic feedback culture that you have at Grindr. Can you tell me about what a healthy feedback-focused culture looks like to you and how that kind of benefits the company and the customers?
Yeah, I think what that could look like in a really positive way is when a company has their customer experience department really integrated into the day-to-day decision making. In previous companies that I've worked with, that has occurred to various levels. And I think the ability to keep our customers happy was impacted because of that, because sometimes decisions were made without sort of considering the customer impact or without talking to people who literally speak to customers in the community every single day. And I know that our manager, Alice, has really worked hard with making sure that all of the good work we are doing is not only servicing the users and the community, but also is visible to the rest of the company. Over the past couple of years, it's been us sort of saying, hey, we've got feedback about that. Hey, we can help with that. Or, hey, our community experienced this in a way that maybe we could have done this a little bit better. So let's sort of interact and we can make that an easier experience. And so by far, this is the company where I've worked where CX is integrated into the everyday decision making. And I think that really makes a huge difference in sort of elevating concerns and getting those concerns looked at and researched. And then we can start to make decisions on how we actually improve that feature or that policy so that, again, our community is happy.
What does that actually look like in practice? How do you make sure that team is integrated with the other teams and the feedback is getting across?
Well, I think we do this in a few different ways, and Trav can definitely speak to some of the ways that the support team does that. I think for me, it's sometimes, elevating concerns publicly. So we have an all hands where sometimes I might speak about an issue that I think might really be of concern for our user base. That way, everybody's hearing it at once. And then say someone might be thinking about an idea, and then I can go back and say, hey, well, people are actually talking about this in some of our feedback channels. Here's what some of that feedback looks like. And so people are literally having our community's feedback as they're thinking through, well, what can we do, or how should we look at this, or how should we, change that, as opposed to what I've experienced at other companies where it's kind of like, a bunch of people get in a room, they make a decision, and they wait to see if the customers are going to like it, as opposed to trying to get that feedback from the very start and have that help shape whatever it is we're trying to do.
Yeah, I love that, Jeffrey. That work is so critical that you do for us. The kind of angle of collaboration that I'm taking is almost on the other side of the fence, where I'm doing a lot of like proactive work with product before features are rolling out. So I'm often playing the role of like voice of the community in product planning meetings, or right as we're about to launch something new, I'll sit down with the PMs and I'll be like, users might hate that, users will love this button's confusing, like this one should be a different color, et cetera, et cetera. Then naturally, as a natural follow-up to that process, after a product has been launched and we start hearing about that feedback from the community, I'll work with our product managers and engineers to kind of be the direct line of in real time feedback that we're hearing about recently launched features or recently updated parts of the product, etc. And tags are such a big part of that work. So I'm super excited to get into chatting about those with you as well.
Oh, yes. That brings me on to my next question, because I can't wait for you to explain this to me. So you revamped your tagging process in 2022, I believe. We spoke previously and you fed into a tagging guide that we're putting together. You guys have been doing some amazing things. Do you mind giving me a little overview of what your tagging process now looks like in Zendesk and what kind of made you do this revamp in the first place?
Well, what made us do the revamp? I'll start there. I mean, to be quite honest, when I started, the tags were an absolute mess. I mean, a dumpster fire. Like the tags that were being surfaced as being most used were the words the, like THE, and you, YOU. And I'm like, me? What do I have to do? Like what does that mean as far as ticket insights go? I love tags. I think that they are so powerful as a primary way of tracking insights and trends and being able to report those back to product. We rely super heavily on macros as well because of our partnership with the BPO. So we want to make sure that we really have provided all of our frontline associates with like the exact language that they need to answer any case. So we have a really robust system of macros as well. And each of those macros has 3 different tag types on it. So we start with what we call category tags. And this is our widest bucket with the fewest number of tags included under this umbrella. So what category tags are they're kind of like the biggest bucket or way that we can chop up ticket insights, right? So is this ticket about a billing or payments issue? Is this ticket about an account and profile management issue? Is it a ban appeal? Is it a bug report? And those are kind of the only category tags that we have because, again, there are a lot of kind of like varying paths that you can take within like, oh, what kind of billing ticket is it? But we want to start by being able to say, these are the largest buckets that we have so that we can look back and say, 20% of our tickets are about billing. We want to focus on this quarter, etc. Then we have one layer down underneath category tags, which I call topic tags. These are things that might apply to many different macros underneath those category scenarios, right? So we have one topic tag that is called photos. For example, someone might write into us wondering when their profile photo is going to be approved or with a question about moderation. But then we might also have a different user write into us about how to send an expiring photo via chat message, right? So both of those are very different tickets, but photos are key elements of both of the requests that those users have. So that's kind of how our topic tags work, right? Similarly, some other ones we have would be like, refunds, folks that we tell you can't get a refund, or folks that are looking to cancel and have their subscription refunded. So we have a fair amount of topic tags, and those tags, again, can apply to many different macros. The third kind of tier of tag that we have, we call macro tags. And these are the most straightforward. They're also the most granular level of reporting that we have in our tag ecosystem. These are unique tags that are one-to-one for each macro. So to use that photo example from earlier, if someone wrote to us saying, oh, would love to know, when my profile photo might be approved, that macro response will have a profile approval question tag that is specific to that one macro. So that allows us to not only report on how many users write to us about photo issues, is that something that we need to talk about, but also we can tell product, this is exactly how many times we have helped people with this specific photos issue. So that tag would be different from the expiring photo tag, which might be like expiring photos question. So then you can see that both of these tickets would have the account and profile category tag on them, and then the photos topic tag. But then where they would differ would be with the macro tag, which needs to be unique to each macro. So I feel like I really could, talk about that forever, but it just allows us to be super flexible with our data and reporting and divvy up the insights in different ways that might be relevant to different stakeholders.
That makes sense. So you've got this top line umbrella view so that you can take a quick look and be like, okay, this area has loads more tickets than this area, but then you can go more granular with your insights as you go down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice way of doing that. And I imagine that helps you a lot with your reporting because you can look at all these different avenues of a specific area of feedback that you're getting.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's great to be able to surprise and delight your product and engineering team. They'll usually asking for insights at that topic tag level. So like how many, Android folks have written to us about photos? I'm just using the same example. It's just the easiest, I think, through line for the conversation. We're able to then say, well, here are the, 200 tickets this week with the photo tag on them, but we can also do you one better and kind of progress this line of thought into showing you just exactly what about photos all of our users are coming to this kind of conversation from. So yeah, it's been pretty cool, I gotta say, to have these new tags in place.
That's really nice. I like that. Jeffrey, I know that a big part of what you do is identifying actionable feedback within like app reviews and other platforms outside of support where people might be writing in. How do you identify a piece of feedback that you think is actionable or that we can do something to improve an experience there? There's an opportunity for better, and then feed that back to other departments?
I use tags as well. So that's a big part of it. Part of what I would look at is, are we seeing a sudden increase in the amount of people in our community that are talking about something? Sometimes that could just be what's happening, but it's also like, okay, have we released something around this that might be impacting this? Is this something that the community is surfacing that for some reason seems to be particularly important to them now? And what can we do about that? So I would look at that. I would also look at if a certain topic has consistent feedback over a certain stretch of time. So maybe it isn't the first or second thing that they might mention, but hey, this is consistently coming up as like number 4 or number 5 every single month over the course of a long period of time. So I would also think about those things and say, hey, maybe we're not hearing it because it's not, oh, I'm so angry about this, or I really wish you guys would do something about this, but it's just always kind of there. And I think those things we have to look into and try and address as well so that people have happiness and joy when they're on our platform. But I try and make sure that all of those things are elevated because I think it's important to make sure that it's not always just the loudest voices. Sometimes people are saying something really loudly, but when you look at the numbers, sometimes it's like, oh, actually, it's not that many people. It doesn't mean that it's not important, but it might just be, hey, maybe we need to look into this more and see if we can validate this another way. So sometimes I would reach out to Trav's team and say, hey, I'm seeing people talk about this topic particularly passionately. Are you guys seeing it as well? I might ask our user research team as well. Are you guys seeing this? And depending on that, that might say, okay, maybe this is actually an issue if we are seeing this in multiple places, because sometimes our community might use different ways to get at us that may not just be app reviews or may not just be through the support team. So we've got to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, so you're able to be quite proactive with this then. You can go in, do your research and actually identify areas that the product team might not have approached you about yet. And you can say, look, I'm seeing this trend, and then do the research on your end. Because you've got that added concern as well that if you're seeing a lot of these could be taking your app review scores down. These could be affecting Trav's team and their CSAT, could be affecting your overall NPS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the ways that our team has been able to surface some of these concerns and also some of these like wins that we've had when we have made changes to things and it's impacted our community in a positive way is through our voice of the customer work. So we've released, since we've all started, something like 15 or 16 of them. Sometimes we'll do it every month, sometimes it's every quarter, but it's sort of essentially all of our work across support, across my work, across our escalations team, across our moderation teams, and kind of saying, hey, this is what our customers were talking about. This is what our customers experienced. Here were some surprising things that we learned, and we got tons and tons of data to back up. hey, this was really important to users, or hey, users last quarter were talking about this. We've made some changes and they're talking about this a lot less. We had impact in a positive way with some of the changes that we've made. So again, I think sort of us being proactive in wanting to speak out, to the company, but then also product and various other parts of the company actually doing something with that feedback makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious, you've mentioned that you use Partner Hero for a BPO. I think some concerns that some people have with outsourcing is the consistency of things like tags. So how do you kind of manage the consistency of the application of those tags when you have a BPO?
Yeah, this is a great question and something that I have thought about a lot over the course of the past couple of years. Like I mentioned, we try to make sure that our macros stay really tidy and do all of the tagging work that's necessary on a ticket automatically. So we try to eliminate any manual tagging requirement from anybody. There are times where some more senior folks on the team will be just kind of like culling through tickets, doing some kind of like manual QA, and I'll see something and say, oh, this would actually be hyper relevant to our core product team or our revenue product team, and I'll throw some tags on those tickets that are kind of supplementary or that I understand with my expertise might be relevant to these tickets. But actually, the way we've set up all of our Zendesk systems is we've closed a lot of doors for folks to be able to manually add tags to reduce that percentage of like human error. Everybody's guilty of making typos. Everybody can misremember a tag. Is it refund processed or processed refund? What is the syntax of this tag? And that happens to me as well. I mean, we have like 500 plus tags in the ecosystem now. So it's just quite impossible to remember them all off the top of your head. So we try to make it as easy as possible for them. So all of our macros have all of those actions built into them. All our associates have to do is just apply the macro to the ticket and all the necessary tags will be there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a really good way to keep your conversations consistent as well, because you've got those pre-approved macros there. So, Trav, the last time we spoke, you were in the process of importing your tags into Looker, which I hadn't heard of at the time, to gather some more analysis on your customer feedback. For one, is that done?
Actually, unfortunately, I was really hoping that it was going to be done in time for this conversation, but our data team has had to slightly deprioritize that. We've had just a lot of really awesome work coming out of product that our data team really wants to be able to support. We're trying to remain super data driven as an organization. And, we've had to make some prioritization decisions and say la vie as a support team member. Sometimes you've just got to remain patient. So that work is not done, but we are still kind of using all the tools that are available to us. The goal of that Looker integration was to allow us to import all of the very rich data on users that we have in Zendesk into the rest of our data lake, so to speak. And then Looker would allow for other members of the team throughout the organization to view and manipulate data that currently, just through the limitations of Zendesk and account permissions, is really only accessible to most of us on the CX team. So it is a noble goal and we are sprinting towards it, but it's yet to happen. But that doesn't mean that we're not, kind of relying on some of Zendesk's out of the box features, because the insights that we have are so important and we do want to make sure that we get them to product. Just this week, actually, I have been working on building automated reporting for relevant tags for each of our various product stakeholders, right? So looking through all of our topic tags, all of our macro tags, and just segmenting out the ones that might be relevant to folks on our revenue team or on our trust and safety team, or the folks that work on kind of the core feature set of the product, and automating ticket counts and ticket exports to those folks to say, hey, this month here's all the people who wrote to us about this feature that you launched last week. So that kind of takes away some of the manual work that our team does. It still is an interim step between having these folks able to just access and manipulate that data on their own, but it also removes the need for us to kind of cull through all those tickets manually with such a regular cadence and then pull out all of the gold nuggets.
The good news is that because it hasn't happened yet, you still have time to reconsider Sentisum. Use that instead, because we'll do the reporting as well for you. All done.
Wow, that was very elegant and totally true.
Yeah, there's a reason they didn't hire me for sales.
I would have hired you for sales.
So could each of you please give me an example of a time where you have used all these insights and all these like little data points that you found to actually influence something in the product roadmap or within the process of another team to make a difference to customers based on the insights you've gained?
I was going to go with, I guess this is probably about a year ago now, maybe a little bit less, when we stopped showing users an ad after they blocked someone. This was actually a holdover from a previous, I guess, administration, if you want to call it, that was definitely less customer focused. And so first it was just highlighting the concern of, hey, we're seeing a lot of people in the community say this. So not only are they maybe having a not great experience with a particular person on the app, so of course they block them and then they're getting an ad after. It's not a great customer experience. So it was kind of elevating like, hey, I think this might be happening because we're seeing some people talk about this. And so it was validating that. And then it was, okay, how often is this happening? And being able to provide numbers and feedback. And so it wasn't just it's happening to, this many people, but it was also the strength of that feedback. Like, again, we want to be a world-class app who's providing the best kind of service. This just does not feel like the right thing to be doing. And so that was something that we stopped, and we were able to elevate that concern through app reviews and listening to the feedback and being able to tag and say, this is not, one person complaining about this. This is actually something that's happening that we definitely want to change as we continue to be as customer focused as we can for the community. We have so many great people here who are thinking through these seemingly small things that actually can have a big impact on how people even just view the platform or the brand itself. And so once we realized that this is actually a thing, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, let's put some numbers behind it, but ultimately this has to go. This isn't a positive experience. No one would want this to happen to them after they've maybe not had the greatest interaction and they want to move on and find somebody that they can vibe with.
Yeah, definitely. Super impressed that you resolved that one. I was actually talking to a guy called Tony yesterday, who I'm going to be getting on the podcast. And he told me, I'm not going to do this justice at all, but he told me about this thing called Conway's Law, I think it's called. Do you ever get it when you go on an app or you go on a website and the look and feel of one area is totally different to the look and feel of like the legal section or the FAQ or something? And he basically explained it as like, the dysfunction within the team and how they work is reflected in what the customer sees. So if you were having one experience, you're leaving the interaction, you're still upset or whatever, but then the team who's doing the advertising and the marketing and they're telling you how amazing they are when you're like, well, they've just pissed me off, so they're not that amazing. They do affect the customer. They are small, but they affect your image.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah, for sure. I feel really fortunate and happy to say that I am familiar with that kind of phenomenon at previous, gigs that I have had, particularly working in the support vertical. But at Grindr, it feels like because of this culture of feedback and collaboration that Jeffrey was speaking about earlier, we don't really run into that particular kind of issue that often, which feels super good. And just to kind of go back to your question about the times that our like tag insights have influenced the product. Well, I want to start by saying this does happen quite a bit, which is very exciting and exactly what you want when you have all these insights, is that you can leverage them and share them with the rest of the org. And again, this just goes back to that kind of highly collaborative feedback culture that Jeffrey was mentioning. One recent example that I have is we recently launched a product called Boost, which allows a user to kind of bump their profile up in the grid. So on the Grindr page, your profile is basically boosted out to some more people that are within a certain radius of you, so that you just get a little bit more visibility, can hopefully foster some more connections. Shout out to Boost. It's great. If you're listening and you're into that kind of thing and you're a Grindr user, boost your profile. It's really fun. It's great. But we also have a product called Day Pass, which allows our users to purchase for 24 hours the experience of having one of our premium subscription tiers. So I can have a Grindr for 24 hours. Also a really cool feature. But we started to see tickets in the wake of both of these releases that had both topic tags on them, right? Like Day Pass and Boost. Kind of like, started looking into those tickets, and the insights that we found were that folks were getting them confused, which if you pause and think about it, that's totally understandable. So we took that back to the PMs, our revenue PMs, and we just kind of sat them down and we're like, here's all the tickets that we have that have both of these tags on them that can demonstrate to you that there's a little bit of confusion amongst these two products. So without really a second thought, we were able to partner with product and marketing and some other stakeholders just to like ensure that the placement of those two offerings and the visual identity of those two offerings and kind of the tooltip copy explaining what those two offerings were sufficiently separated and unique from one another. This is one of those small changes that then can have great impacts to revenue, right? We've seen a lot of success with Boost because now folks know exactly what it is that they're signing up for and exactly what it is that they're purchasing. It just shows the power of tag insights to say like, yeah, this is actually something that if we just tweak it a little bit based on this user feedback could ultimately make us more money. And that's what we're doing here to some extent, you know? So so that always feels good to be able to both support the community and meet them where they are, which is of course the support team's first objective, but then to also have some business and revenue impact as well. So yeah, just can't speak highly enough about leveraging tags within your organization.
Yeah, we need to get you some merch that says how much you love tags.
I'm a tag head.
But that's such a great example because when you work somewhere, you are at somewhat of a disadvantage in that you're never going to be able to look at your product with fresh eyes ever again. You'll never be able to be that customer having that first look again who's trying to figure out the difference between Boost and Day Pass because you have this bias. Reading what they say will tell you way more than you can ever assume when you're trying to look at something from an external perspective. So my last question for both of you was just to see if you have any advice for other organizations who are trying to improve their tagging taxonomy and improve their internal feedback relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this one first. We have made it very clear that I love tags, but the structure that I have outlined is not going to work for everyone. I think that the most important thing to consider and to keep top of mind when you're thinking about your data and your insights and how to kind of segment them and track them, is just like be true to the product and the community that you serve, And I think that one way to really be true to the former is to work with your product and engineering teams. There are a million different ways that you can tag and organize your insights, but ultimately you want to make sure that they're useful and feeding back into the product ecosystem, right? So remain aligned with your business goals, talk to product, know what they're building, know what the engineers are working on fixing so that you can say, that's absolutely something that we hear about and we can start to measure or track and report back to you on, right? Knowing what their priorities are for the coming quarter or the coming year is going to kind of help you focus in on tracking the right things. I would also say, just remember that you don't have to track everything, make it easy on yourself. There's a lot of things that other teams are doing really great work within your organization to track as well. So like the percentage of, Android folks that write to us requesting that we update their profile photo or update their refunds might actually be tracked in some other dashboards by folks on your data team or your revenue team. So it's really important to just build that close relationship to prevent duplication of work, but also to prevent unnecessary work. You don't want to be pulling insights that nobody cares about. So I would just say really rely on the skills that you have as a support professional in building relationships and leverage them internally with the folks who are going to be your primary stakeholders. So, be true to your community, be true to your product, and also make it easy for yourself. Jeffrey, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to add to that as well.
No, just to maybe sort of hit the nail on the head about something you said. It is striking to me in the difference of working at a place like Grindr, where again, the CX team is regularly incorporated into day-to-day decision-making, and other companies where I've worked at where either it's far less or not at all, because the people who talk to your customers every day have amazing insight into what your customers love and also what they don't. And it has been an extraordinary experience to work at Grindr where that happens and we have insights and those insights are appreciated. And it also takes me back to the immense frustration I've sometimes had at other places where I'm like, you're just now figuring out that's a problem. I could have told you that a year ago if you had bothered to ask, or if you had looked at that report that I made, or if you had done this. And it's such a simple thing, but it's one of those things that I've experienced throughout my career that so many companies often don't do, because they see, customer experience as kind of a cost center, and like, yeah, we kind of have to have you just so that things don't get out of control. But they don't see it as a benefit and a plus, because that's a lot of times where your community goes when they initially have questions. That's where your community goes for support. That's where they go to raise issues. They're also going to be likely the ones who hear the, I love this, or this is so good, this is so great. And we're also able to give that feedback too, of like, hey, here's this great app review, or here's this great support email of somebody just absolutely excited and happy to be on the platform. And that's great and motivating for everybody to see. And so it's just like, really, don't underestimate what your customer experience team can provide, because they are literally the people who are speaking to the community the most.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you've both just said. And it can be tough because other teams, they speak a different language almost to the support team, because they speak in terms of data and numbers and quantifying things. But if you don't have a really good tagging taxonomy set up, it's so hard to get that data across. Having these statistics and these reports just speaks their language.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love tags. I can't stress enough how critical they are in our relationships to the rest of the stakeholders at the org. So yeah, thank you for giving us the opportunity to, kind of chat about them today and be their champion.
Team tag. I just had one other question. Jeffrey, you were saying about how people also will come into support and leave reviews and things where they're talking about how much they love that. Do you have any examples off the top of your head of a piece of feedback or a ticket or something that you've seen about Grindr that you've been like, yes, that's amazing, I love that?
Oh, there's not one particular ones, but the ones that always really get me are the ones. There was actually one a couple of days ago that I posted in one of our Slack channels, was someone was just saying, thank you for this, because I feel less alone now. And because our community is marginalized, and in some places it is, well, in a lot of places it is still illegal to various degrees to even just be an openly queer person. And so the idea that we might be giving this person an opportunity to connect with other people just to validate what they already know is like, yes, we are an app that connects people for various things, but sometimes it's those little simple pieces of feedback, like, I feel less alone, that it's like, oh, this is why we're here. This is great.
Yeah, we get so many lovely user stories through Zendesk and app reviews. I think that our community is really vocal about their love for the app. And my favorite stories are the ones we hear where folks are writing to us to tell us that Grindr brought some very significant relationship into their life. And a surprising amount of these are platonic, romantic, or somewhere in between, but those kinds of key connections that folks can find on the app. It really just warms my heart when they take the time to let us know, like, I just want to let you know, I met someone on Grindr and now we're business partners, and then we got married and we're out here making money and making love. And it's like, wow, I love this. Those are my absolute favorite kinds to read. And we actually do get a pretty fair amount of them. Never a dull moment over here on Grindr support.
Yeah, it's like we're having impact, like, of course we have to make money to survive. Of course, anecdotally, you might know it, but then someone takes the time to actually tell us that this great thing happened in part because of the work that all of these people are doing. Is just like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, and you best believe there's a tag for that.
That's also a mic drop. Yes.
Yeah.
You got a new catchphrase for your LinkedIn bio.
Updating it now.
Cool. Thank you both so much for coming on today's episode with me. I'm going to give you both some confetti, which I forgot to show you was a function of this app by Hopin.
Love that. Love confetti.
But yeah, it's been so great to talk to you both. Yeah, lovely having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Time. Yeah.